What is going on, Nav Nation, and welcome back to another video. Almost a year ago, I created what was at that time one of the first videos discussing how to invest in Pokemon cards on a budget. And in that video, I gave you several examples and several products that you could invest in for less than $200 a month. But now, almost a year later, you all know the Pokemon market has changed dramatically, so I thought today I would give you an update on how you can still invest in Pokemon on less than $200 a month. And then on top of that, I also want to take into consideration your particular level of risk. So we are going to factor that in to your overall decision on what you should purchase in 2021 on less than $200 a month. So sit back, guys. We're going to go through the strategies that you can utilize in order to invest in Pokemon on less than $200 a month. We're going to go through the risk tolerance scale so that you can get an idea of what type of investor you are, and then based upon that investor profile, what products are best suited for you to invest in on less than $200 a month. To kick things off, let's first just quickly discuss some of the different means that you can begin to utilize, some of the different strategies that you can utilize to begin building your initial capital or to start expanding upon the capital that you've already garnered for your investments. And the first one here is to try to fit these Pokemon investments into your existing budget. So you can use various budgeting tools out there. There's several apps that you can use, and just find out where Pokemon can fit into your existing budget. So taking into consideration your income, your expenses, once you've come up with that sum total, you will see what type of disposable income and how much disposable income you have left over that you can allocate towards Pokemon card investing. This is a really easy strategy, and really you're just fitting Pokemon cards themselves into your existing budget. The next thing that you can do is reallocate your expenses. So what I mean by that, let's say that you go to Starbucks 5 days a week on your way to work and you're spending $7 a day. Well, that's $35 a week. When you amortize that out over 52 weeks or 50 weeks, if you're taking a 2-week vacation over the year, that's quite a bit of money. Now, if you reallocate the same money that was spent on those coffees, those lattes, and then utilize that towards your investments for Pokemon, very often that will come to $200 or even more per month that you can then move towards investing in these various products. So reallocation is a really good tool to use, and it's also very easy to find those other areas of your life that maybe you can sacrifice or that you can maybe just do at home. You can create your coffee at home and then use that for your Pokemon card investing. And then the last one here, this one you don't really have to sacrifice much other than your time, and that is maybe picking up a part-time job or freelance work. Doing that, you can pick up various skills that maybe you didn't have before. There's a lot of intangible or extraneous benefits to going down this route, but this could very well just be sort of your angel investor for your Pokemon card investing, just utilizing that part-time income, that freelance income, to then use towards your Pokemon card investments. So those are the various strategies that you can begin looking at to start building that capital or building upon the capital that you have already created. So now that you know how you're going to build this $200 a month budget based upon these various strategies, let's go ahead and move on to risk tolerance and the risk tolerance scale in assessing where you fall in regard to the level of risk that you're willing to take. Now, down below me, you will find a scale that we use very often in the financial world to assess how much risk a particular client is willing to take for the added reward. And we'll start with a conservative type of investor. Now, this person's primary goal is to preserve capital. Now, in this case, the capital that we're discussing here is the tangible product of Pokemon cards or Pokemon card products. So really what you're looking for here in these type of investments is just steady, slow growth over time. You're not looking to lose money on it. You're not looking to take on really any risk at all. You're just looking for a stable investment that will have steady growth over the long term. Then we move on to a moderately conservative type of investor. This primary goal is to preserve principal, but you're willing to accept a small degree of risk here. So again, very similar to a conservative investor, but you're willing to take on a little added risk for that additional reward. Right in the middle, you have a moderate type of investor. Now, the primary goal here is to reduce risks and enhance returns equally. So really you're looking for products that are going to be able to give you a balance of both. And this is where many people actually fall in this particular spectrum, is right at a moderate type of investor. Beyond that, you have moderately aggressive and then aggressive type of investors. Really past moderate, these are people that are willing to take on some, if not a tremendous amount of risk for the added reward. These very often are value type of investors, people who are trying to get in on products at a discount so that they can potentially take advantage of the gains that they foresee in the future. So really assessing where you fall in this spectrum is really important, because you want to make sure that you're investing in products that not only fit within that $200 budget, but also fit within your level of risk and how much risk you're willing to take. And if you guys want to learn more about the balance of risk versus reward in the Pokemon market, I've actually created an entire video on this topic, and I will put that up here in the eye. I highly suggest after you watch this video going and checking that out, because it will give you a much better outlook on where you might fall on this spectrum, so that you're not taking on too much risk or too little risk based upon your risk tolerance profile. So now that we've determined which means we will use to garner or build the capital and where we fall on that risk tolerance spectrum, let me go ahead and give you my recommendations for cards and products under $200 that are suitable for each type of investor within this particular risk tolerance spectrum. So let's go ahead and start with conservative. Now remember, the primary goal here is preservation of capital, and in my opinion, one of the most conservative options that you can go with is Wizards of the Coast booster packs. Now, if you're looking at products to fit within that $200 or less per month budget, really you're going to be looking at unlimited booster packs, and often they're going to be the long crimp style. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with long crimp, short crimp, the long crimp packs were generally the ones that were put up on racks in stores like Walmart and Target back in the day. And as I said, often to get it under $200, you're going to need to find ones that are both unlimited and long crimp. Sometimes you can find them with just regular packs pulled from booster boxes, but under that $200, it's typically going to be unlimited and long crimp. Now, the sets that you can typically find under $200 are going to be Jungle, Fossil, Team Rocket, Base Set 2, Gym Heroes, and Gym Challenge. When you start getting into the original base set, it's going to be over 200. Legendary Collection is typically over 200, and especially when you start getting into the Neo era sets, those are going to be far above that price point of $200 or less. So those are going to be the sets you're going to want to look at. You're going to want to look for unlimited and long crimp packs. Those are going to be under that $200 price point, typically out on the open market. Now, an alternative to this is you can also look for Japanese packs. These are much cheaper than their English equivalents, and you can really stretch that $200 budget a lot further. And sometimes you can even pick up 2 packs for the price of 1. And also those sets that we were discussing that in English, at least, that you really can't find under $200, like the Neo era sets, base set. In Japanese, you very often can find these, especially going throughout the Neo era sets. A lot of those in their Japanese equivalent are under $200. So that is also a great option for a conservative type of investor. Moving on up the scale, we have a moderately conservative investor. And again, the primary goal here is preservation of capital, but also willing to take on a little added risk for that added return. Now, the products that I would suggest here are modern Elite Trainer boxes. And the reason being is that Elite Trainer boxes are going to have less of a chance of reprint compared to their booster box counterparts. Very often, if you do see a reprint, it's going to be in a booster box versus an Elite Trainer box. And a lot of that is due to just the logistical difficulty of printing Elite Trainer boxes versus booster boxes. Now, for $200 or less, you're going to be looking at sets like Hidden Fates, Burning Shadows, XY Evolutions, Vivid Voltage, Shining Fates. Those would be the sets that I would be looking at. Now, there's a lot of other Elite Trainer boxes from various sets out there that you can find under this $200 price point. But again, Hidden Fates, Burning Shadows, Evolutions, Vivid Voltage, and Shining Fates would probably be at the top of my list of the ones that I would recommend investing in for $200 or less. Now, for all of you middle of the road type of investors, those of you that fit within this moderate category on the risk tolerance spectrum, remember our primary goal here is to reduce risks and enhance returns equally. And the products that you're going to find that I believe fit into this particular profile and also fit into that $200 or less price point here are going to be modern and ultra modern booster boxes. And this is really going to be most of the Sword and Shield era, really going back further than that. It's going to be above that $200 price point, so it's going to be really difficult to find booster boxes that both fit this risk tolerance type as well as the price point of $200. Of that Sword and Shield era, I mean, you can find various ones, Darkness Ablaze, you can find Rebel Clash, you can find even Sword and Shield base set, but really the one that I would recommend most of all would probably be Vivid Voltage. That is one of the most popular sets thus far, but any new set that is coming out, if you can pick up that booster box and hold it for the long term, the thing that I like about booster boxes, I've talked about it before, is they're kind of like the mutual funds of the Pokemon world, meaning that you have various options with them where you can keep the box sealed, you can sell the booster packs, you can break the packs open, sell the individual cards. So they kind of have that same kind of profile that a mutual fund has, where it's a basket of securities. And again, you're going to find most of these price points within the Sword and Shield era. And then I would also recommend for new sets coming out, especially if it has a lot of chase cards in it, holding on to that for the long term. And also the nice thing here is that you're creating somewhat of a price floor for your products, especially if you're picking that up at MSRP. It's going to be very unlikely that the price at some point in the future is going to fall below MSRP or especially wholesale price. Now, beyond the booster boxes, the other one that I would recommend are vintage theme decks. Now, you can find most of these vintage theme decks from the Wizards of the Coast era under $200, that price point of $200 a month. And really, you're going to be looking at everything from about base set up to about the same thing, Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge. Once you start getting into Neo, there are some Neo theme decks in there that are under that $200 price point, but not nearly as many. And when you start getting into E-Series, those are going to be above that $200 price point. So really, the Wizards of the Coast theme decks, all the way from base set to Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge, a lot of those you can find for under $200 a month. I really like these because they're very nostalgic. They've maintained their value quite well over the long term. We don't see near the fluctuation on these that we do compared to other sealed vintage products, especially booster boxes. So really like the theme decks here, and I really see these growing more and more in popularity, and one that for less than $200 a month I think is a great investment, especially for this moderate type of investor. And last but not least, for all of you risk takers out there, we have a moderately aggressive to aggressive type of investors. And for those of you that are wanting to fulfill this type of investing style on less than $200 a month, remember the goal here for a moderately aggressive to an aggressive type of investor is really maximizing returns. Now, a moderately aggressive is not going to take on as much risk, but it's still going to be quite significant. And an aggressive type of investor, really their primary goal is maximizing return and willing to take on significant losses. Now, the products that would fit within this investing style and looking at less than $200 a month, I would be looking at vintage graded cards, but more specifically CGC vintage graded cards. Now, these are going to be your best option to try to find graded cards of especially Wizards of the Coast era on less than $200 a month. Now, CGC is on the rise. It is growing more and more in popularity, and personally, I really like the direction that CGC is heading. However, out on the open market, the CGC equivalently graded cards are not nearly at the same level or the same price point as PSA or the Beckett equivalent. So this is really going to be your best option here to try to find cards, especially of gem mint status. So CGC 9s, 9.5s, those are going to be the cards that you're going to find for under $200 out on the open market. And I think this is also great because as CGC gains more in popularity, I think these cards are going to at some point meet the same price point of the equivalently graded PSA and Beckett cards, and perhaps at some point could even exceed that. So this is also, in my opinion, a great value investing opportunity. And again, guys, there's a lot of first edition cards out there that are gem mint status in CGC that you can find for not just under $200 a month, but under $100 per card, rather, that you can find out on the open market. So great option here. And again, if you want to save even more money and you want to get the exact same card, maybe both CGC 9s or equivalent grades, then I would look at the Japanese equivalents as well. Again, you can go down that hierarchy where the CGC is going to be cheaper than the PSA and the Japanese is going to be even cheaper than the English equivalent of that same CGC graded card. So again, you could probably stack up even more cards on that $200 a month budget by looking at Japanese equivalent CGC graded cards. That's really going to be the best opportunity. But the other thing that you have to keep in mind is there is a lot of volatility in this market, but if you fit within this particular investor profile of moderately aggressive to aggressive, then you should be okay with taking on that added risk for the added gains. And really, guys, in summation of all of this, you may find that you fit more in line with one of these investor profiles, but really a well-constructed portfolio has a combination of all of this. So even if you are a conservative investor, having a small amount of products in your portfolio that maybe are a little more aggressive, that have a little more added risk, I think is always a good thing. But you want to make sure that you're still within the means of this budget. So if your maximum budget is $200 a month, make sure that you're sticking to that. Make sure that you're not over leveraging yourself, taking on too much risk, taking on too much that you really can't handle, especially financially. That's really the main takeaway here. So hopefully this has helped you guys out in determining what products you can still invest in on less than $200 a month, even in 2021 and this crazy market, but also aligning yourself more closely to the level of risk that you're willing to take. I think the combination of really everything that we've talked about today, finding the budgeting technique that works best for you, combining that with the level of risk that you're willing to take, and then understanding what products fit within both that budget of, let's say it is $200 a month, but also with the investor type that you really align more closely with. I think that really is the best recipe for success in creating a portfolio and building upon your existing portfolio. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this here today. Hopefully it has been beneficial to you, and I will continue to put these out year in and year out to help you guys to try to invest in this hobby within that particular budget so that it is accessible to everyone out there. Other than that, guys, I will see you all next time. My name is PokéNav. I'm here to help you navigate the world of Pokemon one video at a time, and I will see you all in the next video.